If you're a US digital nomad or expat, one of the best states for residency is South Dakota. There's no state income tax, no inheritance tax, and the process of establishing a domicile might actually be the easiest in the entire country. It only takes 1 day. So as you might expect, the state has become a very popular option for residency over the years for nomads and expats. Now, more recently, there have been some really important changes to South Dakota's residency policy, which we will talk about. In this video, we'll walk you through all of the steps you need to take if you want to establish residency in South Dakota. But before we do that, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps us out in the algorithm so we can get this content to more people who really need to hear it. So without further ado, let's dive in. First things first, we need to clarify the difference between the terms residency and domicile. These two terms might sound like synonyms, but in the legal and financial world, they're totally different. Your domicile is your permanent home. It represents a long-term commitment to a specific place. Residency is a little less stringent. For example, someone with multiple homes or who travels frequently could have multiple residencies, but you can only designate one of those as your domicile. Really, it all comes down to your intent. After you finish traveling, where do you intend to settle down? Of course, intent is kind of an intangible concept, so when it comes to tax residency, the state government is going to look at where you're actually spending your time as well as your intent. Getting tax residency isn't as simple as just getting a driver's license in that state. It depends on things like where you spend most of your time, where you vote, the location of your primary residence, and other factors. Now, setting up a domicile in most US states is not straightforward at all. It's actually complicated, but in South Dakota, it is extremely easy. We laid out all the steps in our handy guide, so let's walk through it. Step 1 is to obtain a South Dakota address. A lot of nomads use a mail forwarding service. You could also lease a property or use the address of a friend or family member residing in the state. Now, make sure you don't use a P.O. box. In the past, a lot of our clients have gotten into trouble for that, and we'll talk more about those downsides later in the video. Now, one great thing about South Dakota is that it has a very minimal physical presence requirement to establish a domicile. In fact, the only requirement is to spend 1 night there. It can even be at a campground. All you have to do is sign a residency affidavit, which basically says that you intend to make South Dakota your domicile. Step 2 is to obtain a South Dakota driver's license. You can do this by visiting a South Dakota Department of Public Safety office. Make sure you bring all the required documentation, such as proof of identity, social security number, and your South Dakota address. Again, many of our clients have run into trouble even when they have all their paperwork in order. We'll talk more about that. Step 3, register any vehicles in the state if you have them. Step 4 is to file Form 8822, which officially notifies the IRS of your change of address. Step 5, update your financial accounts with your new address. That includes bank accounts, credit cards, retirement accounts, any financial institution that might still be sending mail and documents to your old address. Step 6, make sure you cut all ties with your former state. This includes things like selling or renting out property, getting a new primary care provider, canceling magazine subscriptions, basically cutting off anything that could tie you back to your previous state. And finally, step 7, maintain South Dakota as your primary residence. Follow the 183-day rule to avoid becoming a tax resident of any other US state. We have a video on the 183-day rule. Definitely check that out. Now, if all that sounds really easy, it's because it is. In fact, it's a little too easy. Lately, the state government has gotten afraid that all of these expats and nomads are going to overwhelm South Dakota's small population. So they've made a few really important changes that you need to know about. The first change, which is by far the biggest, is a new law passed in 2023, means that you cannot use a personal mailbox address for your payroll purposes. Unemployment tax must be paid to your company's home state or to the state where the work was performed. Bottom line, that this is a total non-starter for most W-2 employees. If you're working remotely for a US company, this is going to be a major hurdle, so make sure you keep that in mind. Another 2025 law changed state voting requirements. If you want to vote in South Dakota state elections, then you must live in one permanent dwelling in the state for at least 30 consecutive days. Now, you could still get your absentee ballot for federal elections, but that's it. And finally, in our experience as a company that specializes in this area, it's getting much harder for nomads and expats to take advantage of the South Dakota tax hack. We've had clients travel there only to get denied for a driver's license on very technical grounds, even when all their paperwork was completely in order. That's why we now recommend Florida as the best state for residency. If you're a nomad or expat, there's no state income tax there as well. And like South Dakota, it's fairly straightforward for establishing a domicile. Now, if you want someone to handle all that paperwork for you and coach you through the process, we have a really great domicile service that will make the move really simple. So make sure you check that out. Link is in the video description. And if you sign up with us, you can use the code YouTube for 15% off. If you enjoyed this video, you want more expat and nomad tax tips, financial strategies, make sure you follow the channel. We're always putting out new content. And again, hit that like button. It costs you nothing. It helps us out in the algorithm so we can get this content to more people who really need to see it. Until the next video, safe travels and happy tax planning.